Commander Jake Morrison rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the endless stream of data flowing across his screens. The Deep Space Monitoring Station orbiting Mars was quiet tonight, with only the soft hum of machines and the distant red glow of the planet below keeping him company. He had been working the night shift for 3 weeks straight, and the loneliness was starting to get to him. Jake took another sip of his cold coffee and checked the time. 2 hours until his replacement arrived. He leaned back in his chair and watched the routine communications scroll past. Trade requests from the outer colonies, weather reports from Earth, supply manifests from the asteroid mining stations. Nothing unusual. Nothing that required his attention. Then something changed. A new signal appeared on his screen, different from all the others. It was weak and broken, cutting in and out like a radio station from far away. Jake sat up straight and adjusted the controls, trying to clean up the signal. The transmission was encrypted, which was strange. Most deep space communications were sent in the clear because there was no one out there to hide from. Jake frowned and ran the signal through the decryption software. The computer worked for several minutes before finally displaying a message that made his blood run cold. The transmission was not from any human colony or ship. The language was completely alien, full of symbols and sounds that no human throat could make. Jake's hand shook as he reached for the emergency communication button. Within minutes, Dr. Lisa Chang was rushing into the control room, still wearing her pajamas and looking confused. "What is it, Jake?" she asked, pushing her black hair out of her face. "Your message said it was urgent." Jake pointed at the screen. "We just received this transmission from deep space. It's not human." Lisa's eyes went wide as she stared at the alien symbols scrolling across the monitor. She was the station's expert on languages, both human and theoretical alien ones. She had spent years studying what alien communication might look like, but she never expected to see the real thing. "Where did this come from?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake checked the computer readings. The signal originated from the Kepler 442 system. That's over 1,000 light-years away. Lisa sat down at the computer and began working. Her fingers flew over the keyboard as she fed the alien message into every translation program they had. Most of them failed immediately, but one program designed for unknown languages began to show results. "This is incredible," Lisa said as she worked. "The mathematical patterns in this language are beautiful. Look at how they structure their concepts. It's like poetry and mathematics had a baby." Jake paced behind her, nervous energy making it impossible to sit still. "Can you translate it?" "I'm trying," Lisa said, "but this is going to take time, maybe hours." Jake nodded and sent messages to his superiors on Earth. Admiral Peter Hayes would want to know about this immediately, even if they did not know what. The message said yet. For the next 6 hours, Lisa worked without stopping. She drank coffee and ate sandwiches that Jake brought her, but she never looked away from the screen. Slowly, piece by piece, she began to understand the alien language. "They call themselves the Volari," she said during one of her breaks. "Their language is based on musical tones and mathematical relationships. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Jake watched her work, amazed by her dedication. Outside the station windows, Mars continued its slow rotation, unaware that everything had just changed. Finally, as the sun was rising on Earth's side of the solar system, Lisa leaned back in her chair with tears in her eyes. "I've got it," she said softly. "Jake, you need to read this." Jake looked at the screen where Lisa had written the translation in English. The message was short, but it hit him like a punch to the stomach. "To anyone who can hear this message, we are the Volari of the Kepler 442 system. Our worlds are dying. The Kreth Empire has come to our space and they are destroying everything we have built. They take our resources and kill our people. We have heard stories of a species called humans who fought against impossible odds and won. We do not ask you to save us. We know you are too far away. We ask only that someone remember us when we are gone. Remember that we loved beauty and peace. Remember that we tried to be good. Our children's voices grow silent. Soon, there will be no one left to sing our songs." Jake stared at the message for a long time without speaking. Lisa wiped tears from her face and looked at him. "What do we do?" she asked. Jake thought about the message. Somewhere, over 1,000 light-years away, an entire civilization was being destroyed. They were so far away that their light was over 1,000 years old by the time it reached Earth. The Valari might already be extinct, and humanity would not know for centuries. But they had asked for help. They had reached out across the impossible distance of space and asked for someone to remember them. Jake picked up the secure communication device and called Admiral Hayes on Earth. "Admiral," Jake said when the connection went through, "we have a situation." It took 3 days for Admiral Hayes to arrive at the Mars station. He was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes who had spent 40 years in Earth's space navy. He read the Valari message 5 times before speaking. "How sure are we that this is real?" he asked. Lisa showed him all her work, explaining how she had verified the translation and confirmed the signal's origin. Admiral Hayes listened carefully, asking detailed questions about the language and the transmission method. "If this is real," he said finally, "then we have a problem. The fastest ships we have would take 8 months to reach the Kepler 442 system. By the time we arrived, this Kreth Empire would probably be long gone." Jake nodded. "I know, sir, but..." They asked for help. Admiral Hayes walked to the window and looked out at Mars. "In 40 years of military service, I have learned one thing above all else. When someone asks for help, you help them. It does not matter if they are human or alien. It does not matter if you think you can win. You help them because it is the right thing to do." He turned back to Jake and Lisa. "I'm going back to Earth to talk to the Defense Council. If they approve, we're going to send ships to Kepler 442. Lisa looked shocked. "But Admiral, you said it yourself. We might be too late." Admiral Hayes smiled grimly. "Maybe we will be, but maybe we won't. And if there are still Valari alive when we get there, they're going to learn something important about humans." "What's that?" Jake asked. "When someone calls for help, Earth's children answer." 3 weeks after Admiral Hayes returned to Earth, the Defense Council made their decision. They would send help to the Valari, even if it seemed impossible. Captain Ryan Bell stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching Earth grow smaller, in the view screen as his ship left orbit. The Defiance was humanity's newest and fastest warship, built with technology stolen from alien raiders who had attacked human colonies 5 years ago. Behind the Defiance flew 2 other ships, the UES Guardian and the UES Revenge. Together they formed Task Force Vengeance, humanity's answer to the Valari's cry for help. Ryan had been chosen to lead the mission because of his experience fighting the Zephyrian raiders. He was only 35 years old, but he had already fought in 6 major space battles. His crew trusted him, and more importantly, he understood what it meant to fight against impossible odds. "Captain," said Lieutenant Amy Davis from the engineering station, "all systems are running perfectly. We're maintaining maximum speed toward the Kepler 442 system." Amy was the best engineer in the human fleet, and she had spent the last 3 weeks modifying the ship's weapon systems. She knew that conventional weapons would not be enough against the Kreth Empire. The Valari message had described ships that could destroy planets and fleets that numbered in the thousands. "Good work, Amy," Ryan said. "How long until we reach the target system?" 8 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days at current speed, Amy replied, assuming nothing goes wrong. Ryan nodded and walked over to the communication station where Tony Martinez was working. Tony was a small man with quick hands and an even, quicker mind. He had been the one to figure out how to maintain contact with the Valari across such an impossible distance. "Any word from the Valari?" Ryan asked. Tony's face was grim. "Yes, sir. But it's not good news. The Kreth have destroyed 2 more of their worlds in the past week. The Valari are down to just 3 planets now." Ryan felt his heart sink. When they had left Earth, the Valari still controlled 7 worlds. Now they were down to 3, and the human fleet was still months away. "What about their defenses?" Ryan asked. "They're trying, sir, but they're not warriors. The Valari have never fought a war before. They don't know how to fight back effectively." Ryan understood the problem. The Valari were peaceful people who had spent thousands of years creating art and studying science. They had no military experience and no weapons designed for war. Against the Kreth Empire, they were like children fighting against wolves. Doctor, Kevin Ross looked up from his research station. Kevin was a thin man with thick glasses who studied alien behavior and military tactics. He had been analyzing every piece of information they had about the Kreth Empire. Captain, Kevin said, I think I've found something important about the Kreth. Ryan walked over to Kevin's station. What is it? The Kreth appear to be a hive mind species, Kevin explained. All their ships act with perfect coordination because they share a single consciousness, but that also means they have a weakness. Go on, Ryan said. If we can disrupt their command structure, their entire fleet should become confused and disorganized. They won't know how to act as individuals because they've never had to. Amy looked up from her engineering station. That's interesting, but how do we disrupt a hive mind? Kevin smiled. I've been working on that. If we can get close enough to their command ships, we might be able to jam their communications or even hack into their network. Ryan felt the first spark of hope he had experienced since leaving Earth. How close would we need to get? Very close, Kevin admitted. We would need to be within a few thousand kilometers of their main ships. That would put us right in the middle of their fleet. Amy whistled softly. That's suicide. Maybe, Ryan said, but it might be the only chance we have. Over the following weeks, the 3 ships of Task Force Vengeance flew through the empty space between stars. The crew worked constantly, preparing weapons and practicing battle tactics. Amy spent her time in the engineering sections, creating new weapons from mining equipment and industrial fabricators. If conventional weapons won't work, she told Ryan one day, then we'll make unconventional ones. I'm modifying our fabrication systems to turn asteroids into kinetic weapons. We can launch rocks at near light speed. Ryan was impressed. That's brilliant. The Kreth won't expect industrial equipment to be used as weapons. Tony continued to monitor communications from the Volari. The news grew worse each week. The Kreth were methodically destroying everything in their path, harvesting resources and killing civilians. The Volari were running out of time. They're making their final stand on their home world, Tony reported one day. Velros Prime is the last planet they control. All their survivors are gathering there. Kevin looked up from his research. That might actually help us. If all the Volari are on one planet, we only have to defend one location. Assuming we get there in time, Ryan said grimly. The months passed slowly. The crew grew restless as they flew through the endless darkness of space. Ryan spent his time walking the corridors of his ship, talking to the crew and keeping their spirits up. He knew that morale was crucial for what lay ahead. Captain, Amy said one evening, can I ask you something? Of course, Ryan replied. Do you really think we can win this fight? 3 ships against thousands. Ryan thought about the question carefully. Amy, I've learned something in all my years of fighting. It's not about the size of your fleet or the power of your weapons. It's about why you're fighting. What do you mean? The Kreth are fighting because they want resources and territory, that's all. But we're fighting to save people we've never met. People who asked for our help when they had nowhere else to turn. That kind of motivation makes you fight harder than any enemy expects. Amy nodded. I hope you're right, sir. So do I, Ryan said quietly. As they entered the final month of their journey, long-range sensors began to pick up signals from the Kepler 442 system. What they saw made everyone's blood run cold. The space around Velros Prime was filled with Kreth ships, thousands of them arranged in precise formations around the planet. My God, Tony whispered as he stared at the sensor. Readings. There are so many of them. Kevin ran the numbers through his computer. I count over 3,000 ships ranging from small fighters to massive planet killers. Ryan studied the tactical display, his face grim. 3 human ships against 3,000 alien ones. The odds were impossible, but that had never stopped humanity before. Amy, he said, are our new weapons ready? Yes, sir. All 3 ships are loaded with kinetic bombardment systems and electronic warfare equipment. Tony, send a message to the other ships. Tell them we attack as soon as we drop out of faster-than-light travel. Sir, Kevin said quietly, this is Going to be the most one-sided battle in human history. Ryan smiled grimly. Good, the Kreth won't know what hit them. The 3 human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. What they saw made everyone on the bridge fall silent. Velros Prime, the beautiful blue and green world that had been home to billions of Valari, was covered in smoke and fire. The planet's surface glowed with the orange light of burning cities. Around the dying world, the Kreth fleet moved like a swarm of metal insects. Their ships were dark and angular, covered in sharp spines and weapon ports. They moved in perfect formation, each ship knowing exactly where every other ship would be. It was like watching a deadly dance performed by machines. Captain Ryan Bell stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the tactical display show thousands of enemy contacts. His heart pounded as he realized the true scale of what they were facing. Each Kreth ship was larger than any human vessel, and there were more of them than he had ever seen in one place. Captain, Tony Martinez said from his communications station, I'm receiving a weak signal from the planet's surface. It's the Valari. Put it through, Ryan ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was filled with pain and exhaustion. The Valari speaker's words were translated by the computer into English, but the emotion needed no translation. Unknown. Ships, please identify yourselves. We are grateful that someone has come, but you must flee. The Kreth will destroy you as they have destroyed us. Save yourselves. Ryan picked up the communication device. This is Captain Ryan Bell of the United Earthship Defiance. We received your message asking for help. We're here to give it. There was a long silence. Then the Valari voice returned, filled with wonder. You came. You traveled across the galaxy to help us, but there are so few of you and so many of them. Sometimes a few is enough, Ryan said. Hold on down there, we're coming. Ryan turned to his crew. Amy Davis was at her engineering station, her hands flying over the controls, as she prepared their modified weapons. Kevin Ross studied the enemy formations, looking for weaknesses. Tony worked to jam Kreth communications. Amy, are we ready? Ryan asked. All weapons are loaded and ready, Captain. The kinetic bombardment system is online, and I've got asteroids locked and loaded. Kevin, what's your assessment? Kevin pointed at the tactical display. The Kreth are maintaining a standard siege formation around the planet. Their command ships are in the center, protected by layers of smaller vessels. If we can break through and hit those command ships, we might be able to disrupt their hive mind. Tony, any luck with their communications? I'm detecting their command frequencies, sir. If I can get close enough, I think I can jam them or even inject chaos into their network. Ryan took a deep breath. All right, people, we're going in. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every Valari still alive down there. The Defiance accelerated toward the Kreth fleet, followed by the Guardian and the Revenge. The human ships were tiny compared to the alien armada, like minnows swimming toward a school of sharks. The Kreth noticed them immediately. Hundreds of enemy ships turned to face the approaching humans, their weapons charging with deadly energy. But something strange happened. The Kreth hesitated. They had never faced an enemy that would charge directly into overwhelming odds. Their hive mind was confused by such apparently suicidal behavior. That moment of confusion was all Ryan needed. Amy, fire everything! The Defiance launched its first kinetic bombardment round. A chunk of asteroid accelerated to incredible speed by the ship's modified industrial fabricator. The projectile hit a Kreth cruiser and punched completely through it, sending the alien ship spinning out of control. The Guardian and Revenge followed suit, launching their own improvised weapons. Rocks, metal debris, and even pieces of scrap. Metal became deadly projectiles when fired at near light speed. The Kreth had never seen anything like it. Their formations are breaking up, Kevin shouted with excitement. They don't know how to respond to this kind of random attack, but the Kreth quickly recovered from their surprise. Thousands of weapons opened fire on the 3 human ships. Energy beams and plasma bolts filled the space around them. The Defiance shook as enemy fire struck its shields. Shields down to 60%, Amy reported. We can't take much more of this. Ryan made a decision that would have seemed insane to any military academy. All ships, scatter formation. Each ship picks its own targets and attacks independently. The 3 human ships broke apart, each one flying in a different direction through the Kreth fleet. This completely confused the hive mind, which was used to fighting enemies that moved in predictable patterns. The aliens found themselves trying to track 3 separate targets that were each doing something completely different. Lieutenant Colonel Emma Stone led a boarding party from the Guardian onto a damaged Kreeth harvester ship. The human Marines moved through the alien vessel like wildcats, using their individual initiative to overcome the Kreth defenders. Where the aliens expected coordinated tactics, the humans brought chaos and unpredictability. "These corridors are like mazes," Emma radioed back to her ship. "But the Kreth are having trouble adapting to our movement patterns. They keep trying to herd us into kill zones, but we're not following their expectations." Meanwhile, Amy Davis had turned the Defiance's engineering systems into weapons of war. She began using the ship's fabrication equipment to create mines and bombs from raw materials, dropping them among the Kreth formations where they exploded with devastating effect. "Captain," Tony called out, "I'm detecting massive confusion in their communication network. Their ships are starting to operate independently instead of as a group." Kevin's analysis had been correct. As the Kreth command structure began to break down, individual ships started making their own decisions. This led to chaos as ships collided with each other or fired on their own allies by mistake. But the humans were taking damage too. The Guardian reported major hull breaches and the Revenge was down to minimal power. The Defiance had lost half its weapons and was running on emergency power. "We can't keep this up much longer," Amy warned Ryan. "Our ships are falling apart." Ryan looked at the tactical display. They had destroyed or disabled over 200 Kreth ships, but there were still thousands left. The math was simple and brutal. The humans would run out of ammunition and power long before they could defeat the entire fleet. That was when Ryan made the decision that would change everything. "Tony, send a message to the Guardian and Revenge. Tell them to fall back and protect the planet. The Defiance is going after the command ship." "Captain, that's suicide," Kevin protested. "Maybe," Ryan said. "But if we can take out their command ship, it might break their coordination permanently. Amy, plot a collision course with that big ship in the center of their formation." Amy stared at him. "Sir, you're talking about ramming them?" "Not exactly," Ryan smiled. "Remember that experimental teleportation system we installed? The one that was supposed to be too dangerous to use?" Amy's eyes went wide as she understood. "You want to teleport the crew off the ship just before impact?" "Exactly. The Defiance will become the biggest kinetic weapon we've ever fired." The battered human ship turned toward the massive Kreth command vessel, accelerating at maximum speed. Around them, enemy ships fired everything they had, but the Defiance kept flying straight toward its target. In the final seconds before impact, the ship's experimental teleportation system activated. The entire crew vanished in a flash of light, reappearing safely aboard the Guardian. The Defiance struck the Kreth command ship like a thunderbolt, its mass and velocity creating an explosion that could be seen from the planet's surface. The alien command vessel broke apart, sending debris flying in all directions. Across the Kreth fleet, something unprecedented happened. For the first time in their species' history, they experienced fear. The explosion of the Kreth command ship sent shockwaves through space that could be felt on every vessel in the system. Captain Ryan Bell materialized on the bridge of the Guardian, still dizzy from the emergency teleportation. Around him, his crew was picking themselves up off the floor, amazed to be alive. "Report," Ryan called out as soon as he could stand. Commander Lucy Parker of the Guardian looked at her tactical displays with wonder. "Sir, the Kreth fleet is falling apart. Their ships are moving in random directions, some are firing on each other, and many have just stopped moving entirely." Ryan looked at the main screen and saw something he had never expected to witness. The perfectly coordinated Kreth armada was dissolving into chaos. Ships that had moved with mechanical precision for thousands of years were now drifting aimlessly or fleeing the system at random speeds. "They don't know what to do without their command structure," Kevin Ross said, his voice filled with excitement. "They've never had to think for themselves before." Tony Martinez was monitoring communications from all across the system. Captain, I'm picking up panic signals from Kreth ships. They're calling for new orders, but there's no one left to give them. Amy Davis, who had also been teleported from the Defiance, was already working at an engineering station. Sir, both. Remaining ships are badly damaged, but we're still functional. The Revenge is reporting that half their crew is injured, but they can still fight. Ryan nodded and opened a communication channel to all human forces. All units, this is Captain Bell. The Kreth command structure has been broken. Begin rescue operations on the planet's surface immediately. Any Kreth ships that try to interfere are to be destroyed. Major Nicole Turner led the first rescue mission down to Velros Prime. Her transport ship landed in what had once been a beautiful city, but was now a field of rubble and smoke. The Valari who emerged from the ruins were unlike anything humans had ever seen. They were tall and slender with skin that shimmered like oil on water. Their eyes were large and filled with ancient sadness, but when they saw the human soldiers, those eyes began to shine with hope. "You came," whispered one of the Valari elders, speaking through a translation device. "You actually came." Nicole helped an injured Valari child into the transport ship. "We said we would. Humans keep their promises." Over the next several hours, human rescue teams worked across the planet's surface, pulling Valari survivors from the wreckage of their civilization. The work was dangerous because some Kreth ground forces were still active, but they fought like confused animals without their hive mind to guide them. In space above the planet, the remaining Kreth ships began to retreat. Without central coordination, each ship's individual survival instinct took over. They fled the system in small groups, abandoning their conquest and leaving behind massive amounts of equipment and resources. Ryan watched the enemy flee and felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. "Tony, what's our casualty report?" "Surprisingly light, sir. We lost the Defiance, but the teleportation system saved everyone aboard. The Guardian and Revenge have damage, but no fatalities. Total injured across the fleet is 37 people." Ryan shook his head in amazement. They had faced impossible odds and somehow not lost a single person. "What about the Valari casualties?" Tony's expression grew sad. "It's bad, sir. Best estimates suggest that over 80% of their population was killed or captured before we arrived. But we saved everyone who was left." The rescue operations continued for 3 days. Human medical teams worked alongside Valari healers to treat the wounded. Engineering crews helped repair damaged buildings and infrastructure. Gradually, the planet began to show signs of recovery. On the 3rd day, the Valari elder Zethvar requested a meeting with Captain Bell. They met in what had once been a beautiful garden but was now scarred by weapon fire and debris. Zethvar was ancient even by Valari standards, his shimmering skin marked with patterns that told the story of his long life. He looked at Ryan with eyes that had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. "Captain Bell," Zethvar said through his translator, "I must ask you a question that has been troubling me since you arrived." "Go ahead," Ryan replied. "Why did you come? You traveled across the galaxy to help people you had never met. You risked your lives for strangers. In all my years, I have never seen such a thing. What drives your species to such acts?" Ryan thought about the question for a long moment. He remembered the first time he had heard the Valari distress call, and the way it had made him feel. He thought about his crew who had followed him into certain death without hesitation. "Because you asked for help," Ryan said simply. "And when someone asks for help, humans answer. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. If you need help, and we can give it, we will." Zethvar stared at him for a long time. "Even at the cost of your own lives?" "Especially then," Ryan replied. "Anyone can help when it's easy. It takes something special to help when it's hard." The old Valari's eyes filled with tears that sparkled like diamonds. "Your species is very young, Captain Bell, but you have an old soul. We have much to learn from you." Over the following weeks, the relationship between humans and Valari grew stronger. The Valari shared their knowledge of art, music, and philosophy. The humans helped them rebuild their world and taught them how to defend themselves. Dr. Lisa Chung arrived from Earth with a team of linguists and cultural experts. She established the first human-alien cultural exchange program, creating a foundation for friendship that would last for generations. Amy Davis worked with Valari engineers to rebuild their cities, incorporating human defensive technology with Valari artistic beauty. The result was architecture that was both practical and breathtaking. Kevin Ross studied the abandoned Kreth technology and learned valuable lessons about alien military tactics. His reports would help humanity prepare for future threats, but the most important change was happening across the galaxy. News of humanity's victory at Velros Prime spread quickly among the stars. Other species began to take notice of these strange aliens who would cross the void to help complete strangers. Admiral Peter Hayes arrived at Velros Prime 6 months later with a full fleet of human ships. He found a world that was healing, protected, by the joint efforts of human and Valari defenders. "Well done, Captain," Hayes told Ryan as they stood in the rebuilt garden where Ryan had first spoken with Zethvar. "You've changed the course of galactic history." Ryan looked up at the stars, where human and Valari ships patrolled together. "I hope so, sir. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Someone needs to stand up for those who can't defend themselves." Hayes nodded. "Speaking of which, we've been receiving messages from other species asking for help. It seems word has gotten out about what we did here." Ryan smiled. "Good. Let them know that if they need help, Earth's children will answer." Years later, Jake Morrison sat in a new monitoring station above Velros Prime. He had been promoted to admiral and was now in charge of the Joint Human-Valari Defense Network. His job was to listen to the communications that flowed between the stars, waiting for the next cry for help. The message board in front of him showed dozens of requests from across the galaxy. Species threatened by pirates, worlds facing natural disasters, colonies cut off from supply lines. Each message was a puzzle to solve, a problem that required the unique combination of human determination and alien knowledge. Jake smiled as he read through the requests. Humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy. They had friends now, allies who shared their belief that the strong should protect the weak. The Valari had taught them about beauty and wisdom, while humans had taught the Valari about courage and sacrifice. Outside his window, human and Valari ships moved through space together, ready to answer the next call for help. In the distance, Jake could see other alien vessels joining the patrol. The Tarathi had contributed their advanced sensors, the Nexim had provided their healing technology, and the Corvani had offered their expertise in engineering. All of them had one thing in common. They had heard about what happened at Velros Prime, and they wanted to be part of something bigger than themselves. Jake picked up his communication device and sent a message across the galaxy, broadcast on frequencies that could reach every inhabited world. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Galactic Defense Alliance. If you need help, if your world is threatened, if your people are in danger, send us a message. Someone will hear you. Someone will come. Help is on the way." In the depths of space, his message traveled at the speed of light toward distant stars, carrying with it a promise that had started with 3 small ships and a desperate plea for help. When someone calls for aid, Earth's children answer, and when they do, fire rains down on those who prey upon the innocent.